Uh-oh.
Yeah. Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's new episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. BoomStick XL and friends, of course. And here we are, breaking news to open the show. Sony dropped the bomb today on PlayStation VR. And I think just based on the fact that there wasn't a show, there wasn't a state of play for this thing, I think that they knew that they overpriced. It was an overpriced device, even though the technology is very good. No one's arguing that, but what they are asking for entry is ridiculous. We're going to break that down. We're going to be talking about some hot off the presses Bethesda news regarding Starfield, with, of course, our special guest Skullzi TV. Now, this is a gentleman. If you're not following him, he is known in the gaming circles as the guy. I mean, the guy when it comes to Bethesda. His incredible YouTube channel is a pinch away from 26,000 subscribers. He is, he literally just dropped a new video regarding the options for, I believe I have it in front of me, the character design breakdown just a few days ago. Skullzi TV, you've been a guest on the Xbox Factor podcast, but tonight you're making your debut on Primetime Gaming. Welcome, brother. How you feeling?
Hey, I'm feeling awesome. Always excited to talk Starfield, especially when we're like a week and a half away from when we could have been playing it in a better universe. But thank you for inviting me. It's always fun to be here with you. Nice to meet everyone else on the show. It should be a great time.
Yeah, it's great to have you back, brother. Definitely can't wait to get into not only your opinions on the other aspects of gaming. You know, we're going to be talking about Phil Spencer's comments on confirmation once again that that Call of Duty is staying everywhere, folks, and they're going to treat it like Minecraft, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you look at the numbers that PlayStation were bragging about regarding the marketing rights and how much this Call of Duty not only did for their platform, but I would imagine the monies that were brought in, it's the highest selling on PlayStation, even outdueling 2019's Call of Duty Modern Warfare remake, which is still one of the best in the series. And listen, it's going to be a first-party game, but it's also a game that's going to stay on PlayStation and potentially eventually come to Switch. We're going to be breaking that down momentarily. We're also going to be getting into, of course, there's going to be a lot of talk of PlayStation VR 2.0. I'm going to give you my hot take opinions, and I can give you the heads up immediately. It's a big no for me, and I'm going to tell you why it is, because I'm a fan of VR, but I'm not a fan of the pricing that is coming the way of this new piece of tech. So we're going to get to that momentarily. But Mag, welcome back, brother. How the heck are you?
Oh, man, I got to tell you, it's been an exciting week for gaming because now I feel like gaming has actually come back in a full way, right? So here's the thing. I've got to tell you guys right up front, I was not a fan, even though I love the first one. I have not been a fan so far of Plague Tale, the second one. It's just not doing it for me. So I put it down for now. I'll get back to it maybe, but right now it's not doing anything for me. However, I got to tell you, Boom, I sent you a message, 2 days ago on Xbox, okay?
Yes.
You've got to play. Anybody who loves Resident Evil, you've got to go out there and play Shadows of Rose. Shadows of Rose DLC is absolutely amazing. I gave it, no joke, a perfect 10 out of 10. It is such an incredible Resident Evil experience. You have to get into it. It is emotional, way more than I thought that it was going to be. It is terrifying, like goosebump inducing. Like, and I'm not even like talking smack. I'm being dead serious. Anyways, get Shadows of Rose. If you guys like Resident Evil Village, you're going to adore this. So anyways, that's what I've been doing this week. Looking forward to some more Call of Duty. And we got God of War on PlayStation come out. Of course, we got great topics tonight. We got Skullzi here. We got a full panel. We've got a lot of people in the chat. We got a lot to talk about. Let's get right into the show.
Yes, and we're also waiting for, of course, a Wandering Dutch, who the Times were in the UK went back earlier than here in the US. So I think that he might be off his game. I'm going to send him a message.
Well,
And
he had some tech difficulties. Did you not see it earlier?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay. His I think it was something like a CPU got, I don't know if it got fried
he
or
had
something.
a RAM update, and
a
his
RAM
machine
update was
didn't
that
come back online?
Yeah, it didn't come back online, so it was actually like a hardware issue with his PC.
Yeah,
so it caused some issues. Yep.
He sent it like 2:00, so that's probably why you didn't see it. Like it was in the middle of all our talk.
Yeah. And I listen, we'll get him back here next week. Everborn Saga is going to jump in for a hot minute. He's been getting slammed at work, but we have a full panel. We have a lot of big opinions. We have a lot of big topics to get into. Kay Asante, brother, how are you feeling? And you are our VR expert, if you will. What were your initial takes away before, give us a small dose of what you intend to talk about?
No, I'm doing good. Welcome to the program, Skullzi TV. It'll be good to hear your takes on all things rumor and speculation, which we hope for good news. Good to see all the rest of you guys on the panel as well. My initial thoughts were, I told you so. I'm sorry. I'm not above it. I told you so.
You're speaking to the wrong person. The person you're saying I told you so is not here.
I know.
We agreed with you.
But basically we have been advocating that, be prepared, because when the market leader doesn't feel like they are being aggressively competed against, then they can make these kind of moves, right? So be prepared. That's what I was prepared for, this kind of stuff. And I was wrong. I thought they'd pull out some of that, sneaky stuff where, hey, the headset alone is $350, but then you add this, add that, and then it climbs. But they didn't even bother that. They went, hey, here it is. We're dropping it on the table. Get a second job, that kind of thing. It is what it is. We'll talk into whether it's worth it or not. We'll talk about, all the details around it and whatnot. And we'll get into all that. But my initial thought is, yeah, we shall see. There's still a lot to be uncovered with it, but I'm looking forward to the conversation nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're gonna the pricing is gonna be a real sticking point for a lot of people. I see a lot of people in the chat already calling it dead on arrival, and they're not wrong for that. But there are a lot of people defending this, and of course, they are who you expect they would be out there defending this. Crispy Bomb, I don't think there's any way to defend this. How are you, man? Welcome to the program.
Oh, you gotta love Sony, man. They couldn't even do just 500. They had to go 550 on you. Most expensive peripheral in gaming history, people. Yes, that's right. Go look back. The Kinect was not that much. The Moves wasn't that much. All these other peripherals, they weren't that. Even back when Nintendo was releasing stuff, it was not that much, even with inflation and all that. Okay, they have decided that if you don't have a PS5, you are paying $1,200, baby.
Yeah.
And and for those people that like VR, that really are into VR, even more than just regular gaming, this absolutely sucks. But we'll get into it.
Yeah, we absolutely will. Well, listen, first of all, people are asking. I mean, obviously, this is Gotham Knights, one of my favorite games of the year. And the more I play it, Kay Asante, the more that this just might move the needle and take Elden Ring out of first place.
Boom. Okay.
See, Boom. I'm sorry. Mag, I will let you poke him with the stick as well.
No. You go ahead first.
Let me poke him. Let me be the first to poke this man with a stick. Okay. Between 2-1. Okay, Skullzi TV, I'm sorry, but you are in the presence of a madman, claiming that God of War will be beaten by Sonic 2-1 in sales.
2-1. Oh yeah, definitely 2-1.
2-1.
Yeah.
In addition to now having this game move up into the annals of Game of the Year. Now, I too have been playing this game, sir.
Uh-oh.
And I say you're crazy, but okay, yes, I'm done with it.
Listen, it is everything I could possibly want from a superhero game, and I said it the other day, and I potentially lost subs because of it. I like it better than Spider-Man 2018.
Wow. Okay, but I don't want to sideline the show. I just 30 seconds or less. How is that? Like, do the frames bother you? Like, is it like a thing? Like, do you notice
a non-issue?
Okay,
at any given point.
Okay, that's all I needed to know, because I was afraid of that, because I got to tell you, the Plague Tale situation at 30 frames, when you swing the camera around, I feel like I'm having a stroke.
Yeah,
it's just like, it's the worst feeling.
That problem, and what's interesting about this game and what's not really discussed is the how your character gets around. You could attach to everything.
Okay, all right.
And you are flying around like on a wire trapeze, and I've never had it slow down on me. I mean, I've been fighting 6-7 people at a time. I have not had any issues with it. It is everything I could have asked, and then they threw in the kitchen sink because this is a full-on RPG. It is action. It's open world RPG. The amount of things that you can do, this character switch on the fly is just not to be believed.
So what you're saying is this is a Black Friday purchase, then?
I would say that if you didn't,
I haven't bought it yet, right? So
if you didn't pick it up and you don't want to spend the full price, I hear you. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to pocket.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm just saying because it's 3 weeks away.
It is definitely a Black Friday.
I got it on PC, sure. By the way, and I got a pretty good deal on it. And the 60 frames is no longer a factor. So on PC,
interesting. All right,
yeah,
that's all I need to know. Thank you, guys.
But listen, folks. Let's talk about one of the hottest topics of today. This comes to way of Tom Warren, beat writer, of course, of TheVerge.com, and he put out on Twitter, on the socials, if you will, that Sony's PlayStation VR 2 headset is arriving on February 22nd, priced at $549.99 with no games. Sony has announced 11 new VR games for the headset today as well. And I'm going to read you the details. And by the way, every one of those games they announced are garbage. They are literally hand-me-down garbage games from the Oculus.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what they are. Now, listen. Here's the thing, folks.
He's killing me today.
No. I mean, you got to be honest, because none of these games are first-party Sony. They're launching with one first-party Sony game, and that game, folks, does not come with the in the $549.99 version. It comes in the $599.99 version. So if you were someone coming into PlayStation for the first time and you wanted your console and you had to have your VR, it's going to cost you a few crumbs short of $1,300 for the PlayStation 5. That's $550 plus tax, and the $600 PlayStation VR unit with one game, which is Horizon Call of the Mountain. And so at the end of the day, for $1,300, you get a console, you get a peripheral, and you get one game. Sorry, folks, that's a big no for me. So let's get into the Dollar Tree games that they are releasing. They announced 11.
Damn,
yes,
you need to call
they are Dollar Tree games, brother. I maybe you'll get lucky and find these in Five Below. And they don't have, again, I'm not getting sponsored by them, but here are games listed. The Dark Pictures Switchback VR, Cities VR Enhanced Edition, Crossfire Sierra Squad, The Light Brigade, Consumptious High, Hello Neighbor Search and Rescue, Jurassic World Aftermath Collection, Pistol Whip VR, Zenith The Last City, After the Fall, and Tentacular. Those are the games that are releasing. As far as I know, not one of those games are being produced by a first party outside of Call of the Mountain. Look, at the end of the day, and again, just to make sure that I'm not selling this to short anyone, they have said in their press release that there's going to be VR versions for Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil 4, No Man's Sky, and the Walking Dead games are planned to be released later on, as well as versions of Star Wars. I'm not sure if those,
Boom.
Yes, sir.
Boom. One thing that you should also know, which might be a plus on your column, even though there is no backward compatibility, some of the developers are themselves coming out and saying that when they release the PSVR 2 versions of them, if you happen to be a person who owned the last version, you get the upgrade for free.
Okay,
so
well then
games like Pistol Whip, if you had the first version on PSVR 1, you get the new one included, at no extra cost. So they're not all doing it. Maybe they all will, but they've started announcing those. Just aside.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point because, like I said, I have a PlayStation VR with the HD pass through. I have 30 games, and when this was announced, they said that these games were not backwards compatible. Immediately, I was pissed, and I was like, well, then I'm not going to get this because what you're going to do is it's only a matter of time before you start seeing some of the games that you currently own upgraded to like a PlayStation VR 2, version. And knowing Sony, which they're trying to rake people over the coals, this won't be a $10 upgrade. They'll probably try and charge you, make you buy the game all over again. Hopefully not. But at the end of the day, folks, the price that they're asking, if you don't have a PlayStation 5, which you need to run this, and let's get that clear right now. This PlayStation VR 2.0, the technology is off the charts good. I'm not denying that at all, but it does nothing for PC. So if you do not have a PlayStation 5, you cannot, in fact, use this thing. Is that good for business? Is it bad for business? I'm not sure. I do want to bring Skullzi, our special guest, into the conversation. But Skullzi, before I do, let me just catch up on a few super chats that have come in. Shooter 2853 drops a $10 super chat and says, "Hey, Boom, Crispy, K Asante, Skullzi TV, and Mag, and a very belated happy birthday to Mrs. Boom. Thank you very much for that, brother, and thank you for the generosity. Glad you are here." Drawn TJ, generous friend of the program, drops a $5 super chat. Says, "Hi guys, do you think Xbox is going to buy Eidos Montreal and Crystal Dynamics from Embracer?" That is what a lot of people are saying, but we're not going to cover that today. I'm going to be covering that tomorrow and somewhat on Friday. Tomorrow I'm sitting down with Jesse Norse of Xbox Era, and we're going to go one-on-one, and we have a lot of stuff to talk about, especially a lot of the games that we saw. We have videos that we're going to be breaking down, and that's I believe is going to be one of the big topics because, as we know, it has been confirmed that both of those studios are in fact working on Xbox first-party games, and even Slow-Mo Backslap, who's going to be joining us on Friday's 1000th episode for Double Barrel Gaming. That's right, folks. We will officially hit the 1000th episode on YouTube. Tomorrow we make 5 years on the platform. And since then, we have equated nearly 3.6 million views, which is bonkers for a small channel. And we're going to have a lot of guests for Friday because Friday's Breakfast with Boom is not only a $300 giveaway, it's Mrs. Boom's birthday bash. So listen, hopefully you can tune in for that. But Skullzi, let's talk numbers. One of the things that jump off the page when you talk about the PlayStation era and PlayStation VR, the original, and of course then the re-release a year later with the HDR pass through, which I bought both. The numbers of people who invested in the service versus how many consoles were out in the wild, which was 113 million, was of single digits for PlayStation VR, which is why it's even more surprising that PlayStation VR 2.0 exists. But what's more shocking is the price. And the original price for PlayStation VR 1.0 starting was $500. This has trumped it, especially when you consider a high quality game like what Horizon is expected to be. That's a $600 investment. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, does the market leadership continue to give Sony this platform of just arrogance?
It's hard to pinpoint exactly why Sony does the things they do sometimes. It certainly seems like it comes from a place of arrogance, or at least a place where they feel so secure with their position in the industry that they can get away with some more of these bold moves. It can go one of two ways, or at least my opinion goes one of two ways with this. Obviously, it is definitely overpriced with today's market, right? It's $550 for all the basic things you need. And I believe it's an additional $50 separately if you want the charger. I might be wrong about that, but that's
the charger $60 separately for the handset. Yes.
Yeah, so that's already, you're looking at if someone's going to get this for their kid for Christmas, that's definitely going to be the only thing they get. And they're going to be a lucky kid unless they just happen to come from a family that can afford this type of thing. Which brings me to the second point I wanted to say. VR has always been an expensive thing in the gaming industry. It seems like for a long time now, we've been in the early stages of VR, which has been progressing more slowly than the rest of gaming technology and systems. And I think one reason for that, and the main reason for that, was what you touched on. There's just not that many people using VR. Those that definitely do use it a lot, but just ultimately, the amount of gamers using VR is just such a small percentage to the overall market that when you look at it from a business perspective, to spend any money on it at all seems like it would be illogical. Other than just to push the technology forward and hope that you can be that company that pushes the technology just to a high enough point that you can get a lot of focus from the community and maybe be known as the new echelon of VR technology. Now, will PSVR 2 be that? Probably not. So I definitely don't think it constitutes the price. I don't know all the exact costs of how it is to manufacture and develop this technology, but you're definitely not going to get new people into the VR market or the VR demographic if you keep your price point like this. And it just doesn't necessarily make sense to me. If you wanted it to work out, at least take a risk on it. If you wanted to break VR more and get more people into VR and sell more VR products, you think the smarter thing would be to sell at a bit of a loss like Microsoft has done in the past at some of their hardware. I believe like the Kinect was actually sold at a loss, and even most of their consoles, you kind of have to sell a loss to bring the people in because it's just so expensive. It's still early on, and there's not enough people utilizing it. So it's, to me, VR is cool, but I just don't quite get it when I look at the costs. Is my main opinion on it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, listen, look, here's the thing. If people go out and buy it, I'm not going to hate on you. Go out and buy it, enjoy it. If you have a PlayStation 5 already, then the cost is only going to be $650 something after tax if you get the version with the game. Listen, go enjoy yourself. For me, it's a big pass because I love VR. I've had all the only thing I haven't had is the Valve Index because I don't have a PC to run it. Simply, I've had PlayStation VR twice. I had the original launch. I had the HDR pass-through upgrade. I've had the Oculus Quest 1. I have an Oculus Quest 2. VR is great, but until we start getting into Ready Player One type of VR where we're in the world, I'm not dropping this kind of money on a VR. And the reason why I say that with confidence is, folks, who are we talking about? Because we mentioned Google a lot, how they kill things left, right, and center, and how they continue to do that, right? But hasn't Sony done that with their own products? They literally killed PlayStation VR 1, but with no support. They did it to the PSP. They did it to the second handheld that they released. And they're probably, folks, no surprise here, are going to do it again in 2 years when this thing is sitting on shelves. Because look, by the time this unit comes out, and I'm going to go to next to Asante on this, when this unit comes out, let's just say, for instance, Sony has 25 million PlayStation 5s. Right, that's a great number for only 2 years, two years and some change in the market, right? How many of those 25 million people that have PlayStation 5s are going to run out and drop money on a peripheral that costs more than the actual unit to play on? You shout out to Bionic Wolf in the chat, who put in accessories shouldn't cost more than the consoles. Sega did that with the 32X and the Sega CD, and it didn't work out. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, listen, you said you're going to get it, and that's cool. You are our connoisseur, Asante, when we talk about VR. I'm sure that the specs excite you. I'm sure that
frankly, I get to write it off on my taxes.
You get to write it off on your taxes, so you go right ahead and do that. But the truth of the matter is that I think Sony, even though the technology is good, even though the technology is probably better, I think someone put in the chat earlier that it's equal to the Index, with the Index as being twice as expensive, and that's great. But the problem is that it's Sony. When things don't go their way, they stop supporting. And when things start getting supported, you've just wasted your money. What are your thoughts on the price?
Okay, so let me start from the top. Okay, so I am the one that would be considered all in on VR. I always have been, always will be. I've loved the VR technology. I think honestly that the way it's being implemented now may not be the way you'll see it in the future, but at least people are trying, right? It's been tried since the days of the Virtual Boy, where everything was red and you were getting headaches every 5 minutes. You know what I mean? And every single iteration of it, you get closer and closer to the dream. And with all the experiments, if you will, you'll find one thing that you go, okay, this is what they're going for. And these days they are few and far between, but I can count on like a good 10 game collection that if I can get you to play that, your mind will be blown and you'll be convinced, right? And that's never been the case until now. So I believe wholeheartedly that VR should continue even against business interests, because it, as you said, Skullzi, you're absolutely right. In today's day and age, it's against business interests, right? You have to go where the people are, and right now the people aren't in VR, right? There are a hardcore few who really love the technology, and then there are a mushy middle that can either go with it or not go with it, depending on how convenient it can be. And then there are those on the edges that are like either love it or hate it, right? My wife is one of those people who can't sit in VR for more than 3 minutes before she completely like loses her mind, because the hand to eye just doesn't work. Some people are just too sensitive. It just doesn't work for them, right? And VR specifically, let's be clear, is a very much you get what you pay for type of affair, right? A quick tech update with that. Anything that is 72 hertz or below for your eye will make you vomit. Actually, with 75 hertz or below, makes you vomit. The PSVR 1 was 72 hertz and they fudged it. So it even started below the threshold, but they fudged it to make it kind of work, right? Because the tech was really low. So I say all that to say, from a technical perspective, this thing is far better than I expected it to be, right? They're finally, much like the PlayStation 5 itself, they're finally like hitting the bar where they're current and in some ways ahead of the curve, right? This is all the good stuff, right? I'm getting all that out of the way. So if you look right now, and this is a historical thing that keeps happening. If you look at every VR headset that comes to the market, they do something new that none of the ones before it has ever done, because they're trying to move the market forward. As Skullzi has said, they want to be the one that becomes the one. So every one that comes out, right, they push the market forward. And actually, I'll tell you even one thing that's interesting. You'll find out that in the background, they help each other. So like you have HTC helping produce, working in the background with HP to release a headset, even though they're competitors. You have a lot of the Valve technology, the Index technology. You can find that in a lot of the mixed reality headsets. Why? Because they work with Valve so that it would be easily compatible with Steam VR. They're just trying to push the technology forward. And in that space, it's amicable. I appreciate that. That's great. You know, even though you're doing it against your own business interests, you're doing it because, hey, it's cool tech, and one day it can become something, right? So I think all that's great. Now, when it comes to the tech specs here, there is something that folks should note before I get into the price. One thing that this thing does even better than the the Quest Pro is resolution. Because out of all the headsets on the market, this thing will release with 2000 by 2040 per eye, which is the highest that any consumer headset has gotten. Even the Quest Pro is less than the Quest 2. And the Quest 2 is 1832 by 1920. And the Quest Pro, which is the higher $1,500 version, is 1800 by 1920. It drops it down by just 32 resolution points, which, let's be clear here, it's not a step ladder. So they use different technology to still make the clarity on the Pro even better, but a resolution is a resolution is a resolution. It's less than, right? It just is, right? So as tradition continues, you'll see that this thing has something that none of the others have. Does it blow everything out of the water? Heck no. The Valve Index still has what do you call it? Controllers that let you flip people off in VR. Like it can see like your digits individually. No other headset can do that, right? And this will have foveated rendering, which will focus your eye. It'll focus the rendering on the parts of the screen that you're watching, and because it does that, it can then give all the energy in that location and save resources around it. Meaning the game could look super great where you're looking, and where you're not looking, it saves on it. So it'll make it look even better than that. So all that makes it amazing technology-wise, and you'll see more headsets come into play. But let's get to that price tag, because the price tag is, I thought it would be at least, I thought $499. That's what I thought. I thought a clean $499. I did not think we'd live in a world where the headset would be more than the actual console. Like, because technically, as nice as this is, it is technology speaking, it is the screen that you'll be using your PSVR, which is your PS5, which is the brain. So how can the screen cost more than the brain? That makes no sense, right? They put a lot of tech in it. That's great. I am there for it. It's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing how that works. But especially in the world where this thing is limited, right? Officially or unofficially, you cannot put this thing into a USB-C port and make this work on a PC. If you could, that changes the equation all of a sudden, right? Now, I live in a world that still has hope, because there used to be a world where Sony would never think to put anything on PC. Now we're seeing things coming on PC all the time from Sony, including the rumor of a launcher and or an actual storefront, right? That they can then collect their own 30% on PC. So if that's a possibility, hey, this thing's also PC capable and it runs from our launcher, I'd be okay with that. Then we'd be having a different kind of a conversation. But right now, being that it is limited to just the PlayStation 5, right? And exactly to Boom's point, now I won't be as fiery as Boom, but to Boom's point, only one game is first party. And that one game, forgive me, it's beautiful looking, but it's on rails.
It's on rails, yeah. You're talking about Horizon Call of the Mountain.
Call of the Mountain, meaning, and for those of us who've been in VR, there's been a process here. Everything started on rails when VR first started, because they knew that, hey, if we don't do you right, you could start barfing, and we don't want that to be the consumer experience. So everything was on rails to make sure it would work. And as technology has matured, they have learned things. So things should not be on rails anymore. You should not be just teleporting everywhere anymore like you used to. Now you should be able to walk, and there should be options for each of these things in the menu system. That's the standard now. Moving forward, there are games that are now exploring physics and things. We can go heavy into VR, but at the end of the day, if you bring people and put them back on rails, I don't care how beautiful it looks, you're just bringing them back into a roller coaster, which we've passed that point. We're no longer in experimental phase in VR. So we shall see. Like my thing of purchasing it is because I am the tech guy, and I always have been, and I play with interesting tech, and I will continue to do so for my channel and all of that. So that's fine. As a consumer, I was waiting after I saw the Quest Pro, right? I was literally about to hit the buy on that Quest Pro. And then I saw the resolution. I saw a few other questions, and I'm like, I'll wait on this one for a while. It ain't going down anytime soon. So I'll wait on that. So I wanted to see this thing. Now that I've seen this thing, my question now is, what will the Quest 3 look like? Because the Quest 2 prices were increased, and I said, hey, that's the canary in the coal mine. They knew what the hell they were doing, right? Oculus knew what they were doing when they came out and they went, hey, we've increased the usability of this thing. It used to be worth $300, now it's worth $400. They were right then. And I'll tell you, as a guy who's owned a Quest 2 and a 1 for a long time, like, the sticker price of it is far, far more generous than it is now, because when it first started, it was a toy, and now it's far more capable, like far more capable, because they keep adding more to it, right? So in that world, that's fine. The reason why they increased that price is because they probably knew this is what was about to befall us as consumers when this PSVR when this PSVR 2 came out. So they knew what they were doing there. So it'll be interesting to see how the marketing and all of that goes forward. I'm looking forward to seeing it. right now, if I would recommend it, I'd say probably get you still right now. Probably get yourself a Quest 2. It's probably still the best thing to get for yourself if you're just a consumer and you want to buy it for Christmas. I still to this day would not recommend you get either the Quest Pro or the PSVR 2 because there's just too many unanswered questions. Even with the Quest Pro in the market, there's still too many unanswered questions with that thing.
I agree.
So there you go.
And the Quest Pro, folks, if you didn't know, is $1,500, but that is not really made for gaming.
Well, and to be fair, to be fair, the Quest Pro, I understand because much like the Valve Index, and I own a Valve Index. I was one of those fools who bought a Valve Index. Where's Everborn Saga when I need him? Sometimes you need to buy the Tesla Model S so that the Tesla Model 3 can exist eventually, right? So I bought a Valve Index way back in the day, and the base stations are still hanging up on my walls here. I still use it from time to time because I knew that at the time I didn't have kids. I had them expendable, it was fine. I bought it then, right? And I knew that because those things exist then, those technologies would trickle into the normal system. That's why Quest 2 exists, because Valve Index was allowed to thrive for a while. You know what I'm saying? So with that in mind, that's what they're going for with this Quest Pro. Have they achieved it? The jury's still out on it, I think, as far as technology is concerned.
I mean, listen, we're happy to hear from you, especially because you are, again, our VR expert for sure. I mean, listen, again, you're going to get it. You're going to let us know how it is. Slightly disappointed that one of the launch games isn't the one from Valve, which is
that's
Half-Life,
surprising.
Half-Life Alyx,
Yep.
which
tells me that PlayStation did not go for it because Valve would have been like, no problem. I know for sure because they are very much in that mindset of, hey, anyone that wants to play this thing, we're here to give it to you. Everyone needs to experience it. So that tells me either they offered it to Sony and Sony said no, or Sony just didn't even bother with it. Something happened there. There's no way Valve would have said no, thank you. Just no way.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's only time is going to tell whether or not this is a hit. It's unlikely. The first PlayStation VR, even though it was very good and very comfortable piece of tech on your face, especially if you kept it on there for long periods of time, I never had any issues with it. The price was a factor, and I would imagine that's why they had only about 7% of the populace after it was all said and done. Maybe even less than that. Maybe it's closer to like 6.5% of the PlayStation consumers actually bought in on VR. I expect this to be around the same thing, and maybe even less because of the market the way it is. I mean, folks, we are in a recession. I don't know how long this recession is going to last, if it's going to continue way into 2023, but the asking price has definitely been a hot topic, and that's why we're covering it tonight on Primetime Gaming. See a lot of new faces here. Of course, if you are finding the channel for the first time, I want to say a big thank you for checking us out. Please consider subscribing because, like I said, we do. I'm one of the few streamers in the circles that I roll with that do 5 days a week. Yes, I'm a full-time streamer, 5 different panels, all different topics, Monday through Friday. Definitely check out the channel and consider subscribing. Crispy Bomb, I got to get to you, but first I got to welcome in Bionic Wolf, who has become a new channel member. Big shout out for you, brother. And you, all the way from the other side of the pond, drops a £2 super chat and says, hey, and Crystal Dynamics. The answer is yes. A lot of people have been saying this. I think even Everborn said they were a placeholder for Microsoft. They actually spent the money, and Microsoft's probably going to buy them both for more money than Embracer spent to do that. But again, it's business, and we don't know. But we are going to talk about that specifically tomorrow or on Friday's Breakfast with Boom, because that is definitely a hot topic. But Crispy, you had a lot to say in the green room. That you've been let out of the cage, so to speak. It's time to run wild like the Ultimate Warrior. Go ahead, talk about it.
Oh, Lord. Boom. I mean, anybody that's a VR fan first is probably looking at this and like, my God, I guess I should have just bought a Quest 2, or if they were waiting for this to see if it was worth their while, oh, I got a PS5, why not? But at this point, it not being standalone, which, like Asante said, maybe somebody has something, to work it out there. But me personally, I think PlayStation might do this down the road, but charge you an extra $100, $150 for a little cable. They're pulling an Apple on you, people. That's what they're doing. It doesn't do anything good for VR, especially PlayStation VR at this point, to price it at such a high price. And if you don't have a PS5, the amount of money you're asking for is new cell phone territory and things that are far more valuable to you than a VR headset. I see a lot of people that are probably going to look at this and say, even if they have a PlayStation 5, if they once in a while get into VR, they are probably going to be considering the Quest 2 at this point. It is a standalone. You have other headsets that if you combine the two prices, they are still cheaper than that. Okay, if you're really into VR and you want it to be able to connect to your PC, those are the VR people I'm talking about here. People that really love VR, they have a PC, they have stuff like Asante does. At this point, I would much rather, if I'm going to buy it for my girlfriend's son, I'm going to get him something that, is very good, but at the same time, you don't need a console that he's not going to use. And he's not. Okay, he plays on PC more than anything. He's a VR till no end on the Quest 2. And, he looked at me and he's like, what's the point of that? You know what I mean? So they need to make somehow, even if it does cost $100, they need to make this somehow, a standalone device in its own way, even if it's a PC helping power it. I don't know. But
so real quick, Crispy, to your point as to recommending it for your girlfriend's son, there's a new device called the Pico 4. It's not sold in America yet, but it's literally a competitor to the Quest 2, and it actually beats the Quest 2 and beats a lot of these other headsets at their own game, and it's the Quest 2's price. It's literally like the next evolution. It's in Europe now. It's all over the place. They haven't started selling it in America yet. It's the dude who owns TikTok. They're basically making this headset.
Oh,
so
wow.
Keep your eyes out. That will sell everywhere when they release it here. And I suspect, seeing the news in PSVR 2, they're going to be like, hit that button. We selling in the United States. They're going to clean up this holiday season. So keep your eyes out for that one.
And that's where we go into the competition thought process. Come on, man. Like, this is where I'm actually a little mad at Xbox. I wanted Phil to get into this realm a little bit, even if it's, the Series X supports a third party. You know what I'm saying? Like something that, at least console space wide could be a little bit competition. And we look at this and now it's like PlayStation's like, nah, bro, like it doesn't even seem like they care. They don't even want people to play it, I feel like, because in these times right now, like, take a loss a little bit. Maybe they are, but I'm sure it's not the hundreds of dollars we're seeing other companies do. Because they want to push the space. Sony's just trying to money at this. Yeah. And you know what? And the worst part is yet, somebody that doesn't have a PS5, they're going to spend almost $1,300. And you're going to pay for the $40 to $70 games for either thing. These games aren't going across the console into the VR. It's a senseless act. And I almost feel like at this point, Sony is trying to kill their VR. I feel like they are supporting it because it's beloved to the people that have had it. But at this point, they're pricing themselves out, and it baffles me. I don't get it. It should be standalone. It should be able to connect to PC. Then we wouldn't be having this conversation. And you know,
I agree. No, I absolutely agree. Good stuff. Listen, let's bring in Mag on this. Mag, you are not sleeping, because I know Randall Thor is going to text you any second now. Say that you are sleeping on the job.
Scumbag. Yeah.
Listen, you always talk about U.S. prices versus Canadian prices. You obviously are in Canada. A lot of people in the chat are of course, a little taken aback by the price. I'm trying to find someone. Here it is. I believe it was MF God Doom in the chat, said that every one of these games are currently available on the MetaQuest, which basically goes to my point. These are Five Below or Dollar Tree hand-me-downs that are old. Basically, what you're getting is your cousin's basketball shoes because mama don't want to buy you a new pair. That's what this is. And that's what Sony is getting. They have one basically first party, which again, I don't know how good it is. I would imagine it's going to be an eye candy for anyone that buys this. It is being developed from what I understand by Guerrilla Games, and whether you like or you don't like Horizon, you can't argue that the game is gorgeous. But at the end of the day, where do you personally sit on this price of having to spend $600 plus tax to get a 1 unit and a 1 game to go with your already $550 PlayStation 5?
Well, here's the thing. I have to pull myself out of this because I don't want to represent myself in this respect, right? Because I could see myself for this kind of tech, I could see myself paying it, right? Only because of the tech inside. Like the specs and the tech are sound, and it does match up with the price point. However, what doesn't match up, which never really seems to match up, is the difference in price of the United States and the rest of the effing world. Because what they ended up doing is we end up not, if you actually take like the American dollar and you exchange it to any other dollar amount in different countries, it never actually adds up. They tack on an extra $40-$50 as if someone's not going to notice that. Right? So for example, I'll give you an example of this situation. Right now, the PSVR 2 in Canada is $750. Right? That's the base with no games. With the Horizon, it is $820. Now, keep in mind, we also pay 15% in tax. Okay? That's why we get all those things like, quote unquote, free healthcare, that kind of stuff, and all the social services that we enjoy up here that a lot of people don't. United States do not have the social security, the social services that we have. It's built into the tax. I'm still paying the damn tax. So the point is, it's $950 for the PSVR 2. If I buy one more game beyond the Horizon game, this is $1,025. And that doesn't even include the fact that you would need a PS5, let's say. I mean, I have 2 PS5s. That's fine. I got that. But imagine being a person who's trying to get into this ecosystem, let's say, and they want to play VR. Someone's actually sent it to me. It is $2,100 in Canada. Can I let that sit there for a minute like a bad fart? Okay, $2,100 for a PS5 and the PSVR 2 together. Okay, that is like some 40-90 sort of situation going on if you're one of those PC dudes. Okay, like you might as well spend the cash on one hell of a PC for $2,000. Right? So the thing is, I mean, but like I said, it's all relative to what you're interested in, right? Some people are going to spend it, some people don't. Now, however, here's the thing. I'm a little, oh yeah, by the way, Asante, I just looked something up while you were talking, by the way. It turns out that there's a source, it says a new source here is that the leak.co, I mean, I don't know who the hell they are. But anyways, on October 6th of this year, they said that they're hearing that a trusted source that confirms that Half-Life Alyx will release for the PSVR 2 sometime in 2023.
Okay, so my only thought on that was thought when this whole thing happened was either they didn't speak to him or they don't want to port it without actually implementing the foveated rendering correctly and all of that, and as such it'll probably come out in the release window, if you will, which well that'd be good, that'd be good to see, because Valve likes to push things forward, so I'm sure they'd want to use the tech. Yeah, of
course. And now the thing is, at the end of the day, though, we still have no confirmation of that, and this thing's coming out in less than 3 months.
Indeed.
Okay, so this is something we would, actually just over 3 months, excuse me, but it's something we would need to know because that's a selling point.
Yep,
right?
Absolutely.
And this is the problem that I'm seeing right now is that, yes, I'm interested in what's happening. Yes, I'm interested in the headset. Yes, I'm going to purchase it at some point. But I'm a little spooked right now because, like Boom had already mentioned, these are MetaQuest games, except for the Horizon one. The rest of them are MetaQuest games that I already own on my MetaQuest 2. By the way, I just like to point out, I hate saying MetaQuest. It is Oculus Quest until I die.
I'm going to call him Oculus. Why are you even saying the word Meta? Stop it.
I don't know. It's ridiculous. Okay?
Stop it.
The Rogers Center in Toronto with the Toronto Blue Jays is always going to be Skydome from 1989 until my dying breath. Okay, it's never going to be this.
I used to live in Toronto. I call it the Skydome. Stop it.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Asante. It's the Skydome forever. Anyways, the point is, it's the Oculus Quest forever in my mind. Here's the thing: those games are already out for the Oculus Quest 2. Those things are fun little experiences. Okay, that a casual gamer could enjoy. My brother, for example, who's not a gamer at all, the last game that he was really good at was Street Fighter 2, and he was a master with Ken. This is back in the 90s, folks. So he's not an arcade guy. But however, he has an Oculus Quest 2, and guess what? He loves it. He's playing Pistol Whip, and he's doing all these other little silly games, whatever, and having some fun with it, right? And he loves it. He ain't going to spend $1,000 to play that. He's going to spend what we had, which is no longer available, the 64 gig Quest headset, right? So it was a couple of $100. It was like, what, $300 or something like that up here. So no one's going to spend it for that kind of thing. So I'm a little spooked at the launch window of this, because what I'm seeing here is that, yes, I want that Horizon game, but I don't want to spend $1,000 to play the one game. And then that thing is going to be sitting in the corner for 7 months while I'm waiting for the rest of these games to come that are going to be of quality. For example, think about this for a second. I don't think that Resident Evil Village is going to come anywhere near launch. I don't think Half-Life Alyx comes out anywhere near launch. I think they're going to come out in the fall, and they're going to use it as a sort of joint venture of bolstering the PlayStation fall lineup, because as we know right now, the only game that PlayStation has coming out in the fall of 2023 is Spider-Man 2. Other than that, nothing else has been confirmed for 2023. I'm talking of the big AAA first-party games. Everything else is going to be 2024, 2025, and beyond, right? So I think that they would save those titles as aces up their sleeve and launch a Half-Life Alyx, okay, and then launch a Resident Evil Village in the fall.
Smart. Yes.
Right? And you can almost kind of market it together as part of the quote-unquote PlayStation family. Right? So the thing is, if I buy this thing in February, I play Horizon, okay? I love it and I adore it. Well, guess what? What am I going to do for the rest of March, April, May, June, July, August, September? Theoretically, 7 or 8 months, that thing could be just sitting there collecting dust. Now, I don't want to do that, and I don't want to buy it if it's going to sit there. I'm not going to spend $1,000 if it's going to sit there and collect dust. I want to be able to utilize it. So the thing is, it's not going to be on sale in the fall of 2023, but it'll be there. But I would buy it if there are more experiences that are basically almost AAA in quality. There's something that they need to do is get away from the Quest style 2 to 3 hour experiences if you're going to give people these high-end headsets. Okay, that is the big thing. I do not want to play Resident Evil. Like, I play Resident Evil 4 on my Quest. It is what it is. Okay, it's fun, it's scary, it's whatever.
That's not a real VR game. That's a pancake game that's been converted.
Yeah, it's been converted. And you know, the thing is, at the same time, it's still old graphics, let's face it, right?
Exactly.
And all that kind of stuff they announced, Mag, seem like shovelware.
Exactly, basically shovelware, right?
But I don't want to remember, though, guys, to Skullzi's point, it's right now illogical business-wise to throw a lot of money in there because not a lot of people are there to buy it, to play it, right? So
no, absolutely, they're going to grow it.
And if you look at Meta's and Oculus's history, they started with huge AAA big budget games, and then they stopped, right? So in their past, they used to have them, and now it's like, well, we're content with the Android capable like games because you're right, because where the market has gone. Unfortunately,
as it stands right now, I still think some of the best experiences on the Quest 2 are still Vader Immortal, which came with the launch of the system.
Yeah,
right?
Well, no, what I mean by the best experiences are not actually on the Quest at all. They're on the old Oculus store. I remember.
Right.
Those were actual AAA games, but they haven't ported them to the Quest.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah, we were on two different wavelengths there for a minute.
They're like they're like what do you call it? Insomniac games in that bunch. There are like AAA, really millions of dollars spent budget games on the old Oculus Rift and Rift 2 that just kind of live there for those who happen to still own one of those headsets. So it just doesn't make business sense for them right now to do that. So
sure, but then what's the selling point?
Yeah,
right. That's what I'm saying. Like, I could wait till the fall, or I could wait till early 2024.
Yeah,
and be able to purchase. When you have something substantial, like, for example, if I may. You think about this. They own Bungie.
Yep.
Why can't they have? Can you imagine how awesome it'd be to be able to do raids in Destiny in VR with your friends? How dope would that be? I mean,
understand converting a game to VR is a big deal, bro. It's a huge
I'm not saying converting. I'm not saying
huge.
Converting. Make it a separate
it exists
Destiny
already,
experience.
and they're gonna kind of mimic it in VR.
Of course,
like people thought that would be easy, and then they started down that path, and that's the reason why most games don't have legs. Like
fair enough, but they own the damn company now. Get a couple of people on it, right? You know what I mean?
Know what? Here's my question to you, real quick. What if they bring back that PS Home thing they used to have?
Oh
yeah, you had your own thing. And
kind of like how the Quest, like the meta situation got going on. Yes,
exactly, because they can't control how third parties like. They can, right? But they can't directly control the wallets of third parties to be able to make AAA games because you have to be there. More of you need to show up there, right? I'll be there, but more of you need to show up there. So instead of trying, they'll add their first parties in the mix. But in the meantime, why not weird mini games and cool Nathan Drake areas and all this other stuff like they used to do, but now in VR? So you'll actually spend time in that thing wanting to look around, and maybe those numbers will get people to want to produce more. Hopefully.
But we all know at the end, you're absolutely right, 100%. And grow it. I hate to use the term, but I'm going to use the term anyway. You're going to grow it organically.
Oh, he said
slowly. I was going to say, come on, and slowly but surely. I understand what you're doing. You're building a solid foundation. You can't build a home without a solid foundation. I get it. Right. But the thing is, at the end of the day, you still need the splash. You need the big splash, and the big splashes are going to have to come from their first party studios. They're going to have to put experience, and they don't have to be full games, but they could be like DLC kind of games, like your Miles Morales. Can you imagine how absolutely amazing it would be? Insomniac working on a Spider-Man VR game in high definition virtual reality.
Holy 100% that Insomniac Games is working on a VR game. They powered all of Oculus Rift's VR.
Yes, exactly.
So they're definitely working on a VR game. That right there is the sole reason I'm buying a PSVR 2, because PlayStation owns Insomniac, and now they have a really good VR
But now let me push back for a second here. So you're saying that's why I'm getting it, but what are you going to do with it until it comes out?
Oh, well,
that's what I'm saying. So that thing is going to be sitting there.
Right?
I know. You're going to be you're the tinkerer.
That thing into the PC, and eventually I'm going to make use of that damn thing.
I know you're basically like, what was that? The villain from Miles Morales, the tinkerer. You're the tinkerer. You're going to be like messing around with that thing. You know
what's unfortunate though?
Yeah.
What's unfortunate is that this thing is still made for me and not for you guys. Like the first version, okay, fine, right? But after you've done your first version and now you're coming out with the full-fledged, full production guy, that's when it should be for everyone. And the price tells me from jump, it's for me, not for everyone else.
You know what? That makes absolute sense. And the thing is, at the end of the day, I am still a consumer for entertainment purposes. I understand what you do behind the scenes, and that's your jam. You like doing that. And now here's the thing for me. If I am willing to spend the money, I am telling you right now, if you give me the experiences that I am interested in, then I will 100% pay full price for it. I will pay full price for an Uncharted VR experience. I would pay full price for the Spider-Man experience, whatever. And obviously they've got the Horizon thing already coming, and the Half-Life Alyx, and Resident Evil Village, which I mean, I will live in Resident Evil Village for like 2 months, right? You know what I mean? Like, I would absolutely do that because I can't wait for those kind of things. But however,
I played Resident Evil 7 in VR. I will never make that mistake again as long as I live. I think
Resident Evil 7 was far scarier than Village, but Village was more atmospheric.
Yeah.
What the hell?
You see what I'm saying? If you give us the experiences, I could see people actually being like, you know what? This is unavoidable. It's unavoidable because it's too good. And people are going to do it, right? But as it stands right now, I am 50-50 on launch day. Unless they have more announcements to come between now and then, I am 50-50 on whether I'm going to get it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I mean, listen, it's a great way to open up the show, folks. We are an hour in, and we're going to get to our second topic. But before I do, got to thank Scott Gamer Dude in the chat. He drops a very generous $20 super chat. Says, hello, Boom and all panel members. So what would be the best start for someone new to VR without breaking the bank? Also, is it me or does Crispy and Mag have the same style voice? they should throw down a rap together. That's hilarious.
That's the first time I've ever heard that. Okay.
That's the first time I heard of that. Usually it's myself and Mooch. Everybody says that Mooch and I are the same.
Yeah.
So, but no, not Crispy.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Listen, folks, we brought in Skullzi TV here today to answer our most difficult Starfield questions. Now, if you don't know who Skullzi TV is, folks, you should. You should definitely get over there and subscribe to his channel. He's closing in on 26,000 subscribers. He is known as the Bethesda guy. Anything that comes the way of Bethesda, especially if it's leaks, he somehow knows about it. And folks, he's more right than he is wrong for sure. So, of course, we're going to take questions from the panel regarding Skullzi TV. And Skullzi, my question, even though it's the slam dunk, it is the layup, if you will. When do you see this game releasing in 2023, based on the information that not only you have in front of you, but your own personal thoughts?
Okay, so I got two answers for this. Right now, everything seems to be lining up for a March release, at least just in terms of things I've seen that's out there publicly, things I may have heard. Everything seems like it's going for March. But one thing that sort of makes me think that might not happen is just, you'd imagine Bethesda would start marketing this game a lot more than they have been if the game was going to release in what is it, like 4 months?
Yeah, 4 or 5
usually,
months. Yeah.
Usually Bethesda really starts ramping up their marketing campaigns once they get into that 6 month before release window. And granted, they have slowly marketed Starfield more as we got closer with the constellation log updates and little like concept art drops every now and then, and the occasional interview. But ever since E3 and the delay, well, not E3, I guess, whatever we call it, ever since the Xbox showcase, I'll call it E3. It takes place in June. We all know really what it's
me as well. Yeah.
But yeah, ever since the June showcase and the announcement delay, they've kind of been quiet. We've gotten the recent update regarding the dialogue system and a couple other things. But other than that, Bethesda really pushed the brakes on the constellation log updates. That might change soon. Which brings me to my next point. November 11th was the original release date. If I was Bethesda, and if I was on track and feeling confident with the initial release window that I said, which was Q1, Q2 of 2023, which I'm saying will be March, then I would do something on November 11th to at least celebrate and make the original release date be something special. Even a new trailer, another update of some kind, another constellation log. They have to kind of up the marketing a little bit more with Starfield because it's a new IP. If they're making Fallout 5, we'd all know what to expect. An upgraded Fallout 5 game. We know what Fallout is. We know what kind of game style it is, what the world's about. Same thing with the Elder Scrolls. Starfield is an anomaly. They need to show us a lot more about this game because they just can't rely on their own reputation alone anymore, given some of the mistakes they made with Fallout 76 and the ever-existing hatred brigade on the internet that just wants to pull apart everything Bethesda does, everything any company does. There's a group for every company out there. Yeah. Which brings me to my final point and answer on this, and this may be a hot topic or an unpopular topic. I kind of want the game to get pushed back to November of 2023. I'd rather it get delayed, unofficially delayed, whatever the classification is. I'd rather it get pushed in November. Certainly, I want to be playing it. You know, I wish I could be playing it in a week and a half or whatever. But the thing is, the more time a game gets, the better it's going to be. And Bethesda and Todd Howard specifically have said that they like the November 11th release date. It works. It just works for them, pun intended. It looks good on paper, but ultimately it's a better sales period for gaming. And this isn't just the fanboy in me talking, because I hate to say I'm a fanboy one way or another. I do call out Bethesda on their issues, but I'd like Starfield to get as much of a push or a boost or a potentiality in terms of good sales as possible. So that's another reason I like it to be pushed until November. But ultimately, I'd say within the next month or so, with January being the latest, if Bethesda doesn't start upping their marketing campaign for Starfield, at least at the latest by January, or I suppose at most by January, then we should start expecting maybe another delay past that initial announcement they made of it being pushed to 2023.
I mean, good. That's good stuff, brother. Definitely appreciate the hot info. Anybody on the panel want to ask Skullzi a question regarding? What do you got, Mag?
So I just asked you a couple of things here. I was going to say March would be a very interesting time to release before I ask any questions. Now, the thing is that would sort of shape up the rest of the year rather nicely, I think, because if you put Starfield in March, that leaves you with a little bit of wiggle room in the late spring, early summer for, let's say, a Redfall, somewhere around E3. And then that, of course, would put something a little bit bigger, let's say like a Forza in September, right? The Forza Motorsport in September, and then November, you save it for Senua's Saga, right? I could see those 4 games like sort of split up throughout the year. Now, the thing is, you can interchange any one of those. That's the cool thing. I don't think Senua's Saga is quite ready yet. So maybe Starfield is a little bit closer but you would need one of the big ones to start the year and to end the year. And I think in the middle, you could put a Redfall, which is, I don't think is going to be like the monster AAA game. I think the two that are going to be the big ones are going to be Starfield and Senua's Saga. So I think you have to anchor the year with those at the start and the beginning. Anyways, the thing is, my question to you is, do you feel with everything that you said, because I've followed some of the things that you've been talking about and everything else. Now, do you feel that with all the coverage and all the publicity and everything else, do you feel that from both sides of the camp that it's a double-edged sword now, that what's ended up happening is that from, let's say, Xbox and Bethesda supporters, that there's an insurmountable amount of unrealistic expectation? And then on the opposite side, like the haters, the Xbox haters and Bethesda haters, or anybody looking for any little thing, you're going to feel that maybe there's too much of an insurmountable amount of scrutiny that's going to happen, where this thing is like one little thing goes wrong, one rock is out of place, and someone's going to be all over that, right? Like, do you feel like that's going to happen? And do you feel that there's going to be any disappointment from the Xbox camp if it doesn't match their vision of what this game's going to be?
That's actually a great point, and that's one of the main reasons that this release is going to be so interesting. Not only is it Bethesda's first new IP in over 25 years, not only is it their first true next-gen RPG or current-gen RPG, that's how long they've been behind with trying to get a full this technology-focused release for so long. Their last one was Fallout 76, but their last single-player one was Fallout 4 before that. So it's been a long time. They're going to have a lot of eyes on Starfield because of that, but also because of what you said. This is their first game since the Microsoft partnership as well, in terms of Bethesda Game Studios themselves. So naturally, they're going to be involved now in the console war, in the both fan bases hating and supporting the game with a kind of like a blindness to it, just a fanatical belief in the game failing or the game doing well. So there's definitely going to be a lot of critique on the game, to the point to where, like you said, if a rock on Mars is out of place, or if the rover doesn't have a cable in the right place, there's definitely going to be people saying Bethesda are lazy. They're going to take it to that level. But at the same time, I do believe the Bethesda fan base, because there is a diehard fanatical Bethesda fan base, and the Xbox fan base are going to, at least to a certain percentage of them, like build this game up to potentially be more than it is. Now, that's not saying Starfield could be something spectacular and could be the game that pushes the RPGs and open world games and all that stuff forward. It very well could be. It might not be. It could just be a great game. But regardless, there's going to be people saying it is. So with these two forces combined, with an extreme force of calmness and positivity and an extreme force of just negativity and just storms and chaos brewing, they're going to slam together when Starfield releases. And I'm very interested to see what the outcome of both of these forces will be. The thing is, Bethesda will have to 100% knock the game out of the park completely to try to negate some of these negativities. But even if they do, there's still going to be people hating on it, because that's just how the internet is. That's just how the Sony fan base can be, as much as the certain percentage of the Xbox fan base can be. But it will affect, I think, Starfield and Bethesda's reputation to a certain degree, more than it might some of their other projects or some other games that just might have as much attention on it. Starfield is definitely an interesting situation for Bethesda, because all the reasons I said before, it's their first big project they've released in a long time, and on top of that, it's a new IP. They've been talking it up a lot more than Bethesda usually does. A few of the developers have been quoted as saying it's potentially one of the biggest things in gaming ever, which you don't just make those quotes and walk away from it. They're going to echo out there in the community. It's going to resonate. So if Bethesda does do what Bethesda has done in the past, where they do make a great game, like Skyrim, Fallout 4, Fallout 3, but it releases with the same amount of issues that we would expect, I think that's going to hit them harder than it ever has before. They can't just do the same level of greatness they've done. And Bethesda has done greatness regardless of their mistakes. They've done great games. There's a reason they're known. There's a reason people are talking about Starfield right now and have been since 2017 when the trademark was filed. There's a reason Bethesda has a reputation. But this is like the tipping point, the peak of the mountain in their journey here. Starfield is going to determine their future in a great many ways. And if they mess up even an inch out of place, it's going to hit them 5 times as harder. So
yeah,
it's going to be a very interesting launch for all those reasons and more. But ultimately, with all that combined, at the end of the day, I think Starfield is still going to have a positive launch, and people are going to be at least pleased with what they get. I do believe there's a certain amount of over expectations with Starfield. Just given the nature of it being a space RPG, all these planets, thousands of planets, you can fly a ship around. It's something new for Bethesda. So our imagination is literally taking us out there into space, if you will. But at the end of the day, if Bethesda at least can make the game they're saying they're going to make, and it doesn't launch with the old school Bethesda bugs we know and love, I think they'll come out okay and come out on top, regardless of the exterior noise and negativity.
Right. See, that's what that's. Thank you very much for that. That's what I was thinking. Like it says, what I like to dub as the episode 1 effect, and what I mean by that is that when I get back to the Star Wars thing, I always call it the episode 1 effect. They announced episode 1. There was like a decade and plus in between the Return of the Jedi and episode 1. There is absolutely no, and Lucas said so himself. He goes, there is absolutely no way I can ever match anybody's expectations of what this is going to be, because they've been waiting so long that they think that like Jesus himself was going to come down from the heavens with a lightsaber and start fighting Darth Maul. Like, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's impossible. And so I always I liken that to like movies, to video games, to any of that kind of stuff. I feel that people build it up too much inside their head. And the thing is, I think it would be a fatal mistake for Bethesda to try and match everybody's expectations and just release their vision and do a damn polished version of it that even if it doesn't match your vision, it's so polished and well put together that you will not be able to deny that it's a great experience. So
exactly.
I hope to see that.
Can I ask a question then? I'm gonna throw something in the
ahead,
ring real
brother.
quick. And actually it came up based on what the mag just said here about them not throwing too much expectations at it, right? And Bethesda have been like kings of being able to mitigate that way before Microsoft bought them. These are the guys who would literally show you a game that you didn't know existed, and then 6 months later it'd be out. They would only start the marketing cycle right when they were pretty much done. That was Fallout 4, if I recall correctly, right? And
that is correct. Yes, I was.
That has been many of their other games. So not specifically Skyrim. I'm sorry, Skyrim. Not specifically the games that are being released this time around, because yes, they are pushing it, and I agree with you, Skullzi, that they probably need to ramp up the marketing more. Conspiracy theory in me says there's probably something to do with ABK and them not wanting to look like they're out there being all look at
big
us,
and bad.
we're promoting a game.
Walk into the fight limping.
I think the same can be said of Sony not walking around with their boys swinging everywhere, because the ABK looms large, right? But my question to you, Skullzi, is since 2017, my beloved machine games have been quiet as mice. Like 2017, yes. They've released a few games here. 2019 they assisted in Youngblood, which let's be real was not particularly great, and that wasn't the whole studio. They did the Cyber Pilot freaking VR thing. They've also done if I'm not mistaken, they did a port to PlayStation to Switch and a few other places, but they haven't released their actual game the next iteration of the game since 2017. Is there any idea that, much to what Mag is saying, that they've been churning that butter in the background for as long as we know, which is about 5 years now, and they will start the marketing cycle and say, hey, guess what? It's almost done and is releasing in 6 months, because they've done it before. What do you think, sir?
Machine Games is that variable right now, that floating electron, if you will, to where we're not exactly certain what is going to come from them and when. We know Pete Hines has said Wolfenstein 3 is definitely coming. It's going to happen. He just didn't give us a time frame, but he did say, don't worry, Wolfenstein 3 is going down. And we do know recently that it's been announced the Indiana Jones game, which is being directed by Todd Howard, of all people, and Machine Games is working on, is also going down behind the scenes. Now, it's hard to say that Machine Games could also be working on a third project in combination with potentially Wolfenstein 3 and Indiana Jones, because Machine Games is
smaller
they may
studio,
have,
right?
Yeah, they're definitely smaller than, say, Bethesda Game Studios, who now have like 4 or 5 locations. But since the Microsoft partnership, job postings and just overall hiring has increased to a degree we haven't seen before from any of the Bethesda Softworks studios, and that includes obviously Bethesda Game Studios, that includes Machine Games, that even includes Alpha Dog Games, their mobile studio that people rarely hear about. So in combination with that, we've seen more cross collaboration with these studios as well, working on multiple projects. For example, we've Todd Howard now, who is a Bethesda Game Studios centric employee, is now working on something with Machine Games. This type of cross collaboration and cross development is going on more than we've seen before with Bethesda. And I'm not sure if it's just because they've been working towards that naturally, because that's something they've always organically, there's that word, have been working towards naturally. But at the same time, Microsoft kind of pushes that as one of their main points with Bethesda. They want them to be able to have this network and these assets available to them and these resources to where they can not only work together and work great on their own as the talented studios they are, but also they can collaborate on multiple projects. So with that in mind, I would say that we can realistically expect some type of unexpected announcement from Machine Games at some point, probably within the next couple of years. I might not say next year, because we have Redfall, we have Starfield coming out, Elder Scrolls Online has some more content in the works as well, and Fallout 76 is trying to get another update out there, even though they're struggling with stuff they've announced months ago. But the point is, I think it's pretty safe to expect something from Machine Games to be announced, kind of like how they announced Indiana Jones without telling us much next year, or at the latest.
I really hope you're right, man. I hope you're right, because like I just looked it up. Machine Games announced the Indiana Jones game January 12th, 2021. That's still the last time you heard from them before then was 2017. What were they, having donuts for 4 years? Like, of course not. Like, like, they have to be doing something, even if they announced it 2021 and you're presuming that they'd been maybe pre-production, getting into like full production. That's maybe a year and a half to 2 years before they did that. That's still a lot of unaccounted for time, like game making time. You know what I mean? So I'm still like looking very suspect at them, saying, where is that output? I know you got something. I hope we see it soon.
Exactly. One of the things that could potentially lead to such a big moment of silence is massive upgrades to their engines and stuff like that. id Studios, their German studio location, has actually themselves fallen off the radar for a while, because they're working on a massive upgrade to their Doom and Doom Eternal engine for something which I estimate to be a Quake reboot. I think they're kind of using the Quake remakes or whatever they're called to kind of be a litmus test for interest in Quake. But Machine Games could be doing something like that. They could be massively upgrading their engine for Wolfenstein 3 or something like that. Well, Indiana Jones is a side project which Todd Howard is overseeing, that we might see after Wolfenstein 3 or whatever else. They didn't necessarily give us a time frame or window for Indiana Jones. They said it's pretty early on. But at the end of the day, if they're going to show us something, it's easy to assume that would be the next project. But yeah, Machine Games is that variable, that strange anomaly that's hard to pinpoint exactly. But I believe they're doing something. I believe it's most likely a Wolfenstein 3, because they have to close out that BJ Blazkowicz trilogy somehow. I love Wolfenstein. It's such an underrated game in my opinion.
I agree.
The characters are so good.
Sir. So say we all. Absolutely.
It's great. So I'm with you. I want Machine Games to break this silence and at least tell us something, or at least give us a window as to when we can expect their next project. They do great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody else have any other questions for Skullzi regarding Starfield? Well, I have a question before we move on to topic 3, and this is the big topic of the night. I want to ask that, could you possibly, for the audience that doesn't know they want to know about Starfield, is there a specific detail or some knowledge that you have talked about maybe in one of your videos that maybe didn't go over as well? Maybe it went over people's heads. Could you give us any nuggets whatsoever about Starfield?
Yeah, there's one point I like to mention almost every time I want to get people excited for Starfield, and it's we all know who Todd Howard is. If you're a Bethesda fan, you know Todd Howard. He's one of the many great skilled people who make these games, but ultimately he gets put as the figurehead behind all of it. But Starfield is the game he's been wanting to make since he's been interested in video games. He literally learned about coding, taught himself game development way early on in the 80s to make a game like Starfield, only to discover that computers could run out of memory and his dream wouldn't be possible at all. So he's really wanted to make this game for a very long time. There's countless emails that have leaked between him and other developers over the years from his early days in game development that he dreams about a game like Starfield, an open world space RPG where you can fly around, discover planets, have diplomacy with other races and factions. He wants a game like this. He has been dreaming about making a game like this since he picked up a controller for the first time. And on top of that, in the early 90s, when Todd Howard first joined with Bethesda and he started getting more pulled with the team after working on Daggerfall, he actually wanted, and they tried to make a game like Starfield called The 10th Planet. There's actual footage of this game out there, some very early trailers of this game, and they wanted this game to exist so bad to the point to where Bethesda almost bankrupted themselves. And Morrowind, if Morrowind didn't sell well, Bethesda may not exist now because of how bad they wanted Starfield to happen back then. Granted, it was called The 10th Planet, but thankfully they knew that The 10th Planet was going to be way too expensive to even bring a fraction of their dreams to reality back then, because again, technology didn't exist in the early 90s. Morrowind did great. Bethesda is now who they are now, and that technology exists now. So this has been a dream in Todd Howard's eye for 20 plus years, and a lot of the other Bethesda developers feel the same way. So if you have a team of such experienced veteran developers who have made so many great games, so many great immersive worlds, and this is their dream project, if nothing else can get you hyped for this, I think that should be the point that people think about in regards to Starfield.
Nice. Well, thank you very much for the hot info on Starfield. Folks, we're going to move to our next and final topic, but it's the big one of the show. Hopefully you are tuning in. Folks, we have crossed over 500 live viewers. A big shout out to everyone that is here. If you are, of course, new to the channel, I ask that you consider subscribing. We are on the hunt for 12K. We are sitting at 11, almost 11.4, and we're just a little over 600 away. I would love to hit it by the end of the year, but if not, it's been a banner year for Double Barrel Gaming. But we got to talk about Phil Spencer and what he had to say. Now, Phil's been making around, folks, this year for a lot of reasons. He's joked about not really understanding or having the know-how to close a $70 billion deal, which is what they're looking to do. He has had interview after interview. Recently, he was at the Wall Street Journal tech event where he sat down, and that was a very, very good and interesting conversation he had regarding Call of Duty, PlayStation, the industry, Xbox Game Pass. But he really just recently sat down, and I pulled a tweet from a friend of the program, Tom Warren of The Verge, ladies and gentlemen. He put out a tweet where it said, Xbox chief Phil Spencer on Call of Duty regarding PlayStation. And this was on the Two Brains podcast. Now, the Two Brains podcast are two sisters, one of which is someone I think that you know, Justine. She seems to be able to get Phil Spencer on her show quite frequently, because this is not the first time that Phil has sat down with the two sisters. And he had a lot of things to say, specifically regarding PlayStation and Call of Duty. But what's interesting in this conversation is we found out that Phil Spencer has been back and forth to Brussels. Now we heard that something similar to the effect. Jim Ryan had flown out to Brussels to basically blow smoke up the rears of the CMA. Well, I don't think that's what Microsoft was doing, and I certainly don't think that's what Phil Spencer was doing. And we know that he's been having good conversations with regulators. He's put out there exactly what they intend to do. He's had a lot of things to say regarding it. But, regarding the $70 billion comment that he made, I thought was quite funny for the head of Microsoft Gaming. He said this, folks: "It might be surprising to people, but I am not an expert on doing $70 billion deals. But I do know that we're very focused on getting approval in the major jurisdictions, and I'm spending a lot of time in Brussels, London, and with the FTC here in the United States." But getting back to the point of contention, first of all, I've been one of the people, or one of the content creators in the community that says Call of Duty staying on PlayStation is no sweat off my back. It doesn't matter to me if other players enjoy it. Certainly taking it away from PlayStation might be good for console war rhetoric, but in reality, it's bad for business. Sony just put out a tweet the other day congratulating Infinity Ward and Activision Blizzard for releasing on their platform the biggest Call of Duty ever in both day one sales and pre-orders. So Call of Duty is big on PlayStation, and the fact of the matter is that you're not going to move all of those fans over to your Xbox, even if it was exclusive. I don't think that would happen. But what he said regarding PlayStation and why it's going to stay on that platform is what we're going to be talking about, folks, and the impact of this, not only for PlayStation gamers, not only for potential new gamers on the Nintendo Switch where they intend to release Call of Duty, but to regulators, to the regulators that are watching social media, that are hearing and listening to what Phil Spencer and Satya Nadella are saying. But this is what Phil exactly had to say on that podcast with Justine and her sister. And he said this, folks, and I quote: "As long as there is a PlayStation out there to ship to, our intent is that we continue to ship Call of Duty on PlayStation," end quote. Skullzi, I want to go to you first on this because you are our special guest. Listen, when this deal was announced, many people in the community wanted this. One of the things that I think frustrates a lot of Xbox gamers, it doesn't frustrate me because I love being the good guy. I say this all the time. I would rather fail as the good guy than win as the bad one. That's me. That's how I've always been. But this is what I think that this does for the industry at large is it tells PlayStation gamers, you don't have to worry. If you want to continue to buy your PlayStation $70 game and you want to play with your friends, you can go ahead and do that. But if you want to join us on Xbox, it's $15 a month or potentially a little bit more if it goes up next year. What are your thoughts on Phil Spencer not only talking about this to on social media, but probably saying the same thing to regulators in Brussels, in the United States, and of course in London, where the EU and the EU Commission and the CMA are the ones that seem to have the biggest questions for this $70 billion deal?
Yeah, it's huge news for many reasons. I have a few thoughts on it specifically, but to start things off, a lot of the community, this is one of those pieces of news that, again, awoke the beast, had people on both sides of the fence, on the Sony side of the fence, the Microsoft side of the fence, both bringing out the torches and pitchforks saying whether or not Call of Duty should be exclusive to Xbox or not. A lot of people said that Microsoft would waste their money if they didn't make it exclusive. And to be honest, I was a little bit low-key expecting it to be more locked into the Microsoft ecosystem one way or another. Now, I'm with you. I don't necessarily like exclusivity. I hate it when gamers are locked behind a certain experience or certain content because they didn't choose to buy that particular piece of plastic and combination of circuits and motherboards. I don't like that. That's stupid. That's more that's not consumer friendly. That's obviously in the favor of the big businesses. But at the end of the day, this is smart by Microsoft for numerous reasons. One, they're showing the gaming community that they're going to put the experiences first rather than try to monetize every tiny aspect they can out of this purchase. And also, it's drawing people into Game Pass more, which has been their focus for a long time now. They've almost rather would have more Game Pass subscribers than console sales to a certain degree, many people can argue. And by offering the experience, the same game cheaper on the Microsoft ecosystem via Game Pass is definitely a way to encourage PlayStation users and fans to perhaps try to get in on the Game Pass sales. And because not only do you get the game you want, Call of Duty, but you have all these other games that you can also try as well. It's like having free reign to the entire blockbuster from a membership instead of just having to pay for each individual experience, which is one reason why I've been a Game Pass subscriber for a very long time and will continue to be. But also in regards to Call of Duty itself, we're seeing a lot of similarities between Call of Duty and Minecraft, for example. When Minecraft was purchased, it still is on PlayStation and other platforms. It's not only locked into that Microsoft ecosystem. Call of Duty is just as big of a game as Minecraft, maybe not in sales or players, but in terms of the first-person shooter community, it's a huge game. It's one of the games that many gamers only play. A lot of people I know only play Call of Duty, and they play a lot of it. They come home from work, they sit on Call of Duty until they probably should go to bed, and beyond that, only to play Call of Duty, and they play nothing else. Call of Duty is a huge game for that reason, but also, and this is my own experience here, Call of Duty brings in money in many other ways besides sales. I used to be an administrator for Game Battles and Major League Gaming. I was part of overseeing many major Call of Duty tournaments, Old Spice tournaments in Las Vegas and North Carolina. These tournaments can sometimes bring in over $25 million in a 2-month period just based on Call of Duty existing and being such a good game for tournaments that it now creates this entire new sub-industry underneath it. If Call of Duty was made only Microsoft exclusive at any point in the future, that would fragment this industry particularly to the point to where it may not exist nearly as much, be as abundant as it has been because of the exclusivity. So there's a lot of moving factors here. Do I think that Microsoft chose for Call of Duty to still remain multi-plat because of things like Major League Gaming? No, but it's one of the many factors that may not cross a lot of people's minds initially in regards to deciding if something should be exclusive or not. Call of Duty isn't just a game. It's like its own sub-industry within gaming. It's so big that making it exclusive would have effects that I don't even think Phil Spencer could immediately see. Or maybe he does, and he's 5 steps ahead of everyone.
Yeah, no, he actually went out and said that he believed it would damage not only the brand recognition of Call of Duty, but it would tarnish the Xbox credibility with the community, taking something so big away from so many gamers. And I think, I mean, they've gone on to say many times, or it just makes good business sense to leave it on everything. And they've even compared it, him specifically have even compared it to Minecraft, where, Minecraft is available everywhere. When the Xbox version of Minecraft gets an update for graphics or for stability, Sony gets it, PC gets it, the potato gets it, everyone gets it. And I would imagine that it makes too much sense. It's literally leaving way too many dollars on the table. Now, granted, Sony is not going to continue to have the marketing rights, which is why I think that Jim Ryan is most upset about that, because he, obviously you saw how much money they made specifically. It's available on PC, it's available on Xbox, it's available on PlayStation, and probably the most copies that were sold both digitally and physically are on PlayStation because they have the marketing rights, and everyone equates Call of Duty with Sony since they took over those marketing rights way back in the days at the start of the Xbox One generation, which we know Sony curb stomped Microsoft to the corner. But Crispy, let's get to no. You know what, Crispy? Let me go to the mag first, just in case he's got to get out of here for for work. Mag,
Yes, sir.
let's get your opinion on this. You know, this again, we've heard Phil Spencer say many times before that he doesn't intend to take a Call of Duty. They offered him a 3-year additional contract. That might have been for marketing rights. We don't know, but Sony said it was inadequate, that they weren't going to take that deal. I think ultimately at this point, if this deal goes through, and it's expected to in fact go through, I think that they just let it end in 2024 and just take their ball and go home, and allow for, because we know and it has been confirmed, folks, that there is Game Pass blocking rights in the contracts currently signed with Activision through 2024, meaning that you're not going to get a Call of Duty in the service because Sony has already contracted that not to happen. And I think that if I'm Microsoft, I don't try to extend the deal past 2024. What are your thoughts on the confirmation that it's staying everywhere and they're going to treat it like Minecraft?
Well, you know what? It's a smart move because they've already seen that it's a tried and true formula, right? With Minecraft, as you just literally mentioned right now. I mean, if it's worked that with that, you know, and then obviously, look at what they're doing look what Sony's doing with Destiny, almost the identical thing. They bought the studio, they bought the game, they own the IP, yet it's going to stay everywhere because it makes the most logical sense to keep the community. And let's face it, it's not about sales anymore, folks. We already know this. It's all about engagement. And it's all about daily active users. It's all the people that are on there because they're the ones buying skins. They're the ones buying weapons. They're the ones buying, level bypasses, whatever the hell they're going to do, right? Like, for example, this new Call of Duty, this is the last Call of Duty we're getting for 2 years, right? So guess what? Between now and 2024, I'm going to buy stuff in order to have my first-person shooter fix. Right, because well, people
it could be why
that.
To your point, that's a great point, and I want to bring this up to add to that point. There's a reason why it was announced that some single-player campaign DLC is coming. That's the first time ever to continue the story, and that could very well be because there's no Call of Duty next year.
Right. Well, and then they're adding zombies. I know that, even though that this is the studio that made this one, that's not their forte. They're not the ones who usually do zombies. However, the other studios are going to be adding zombies, doing zombie DLC, and they're going to be putting it into this game because, like I said, there's no mainline game coming out next year. So they've got a little bit of wiggle room in order to be able to do something like that. That lends me to a whole other theory that I have, which I will explain to everybody in about 1 minute flat, and then get back to my point. This is what I'm thinking is going to happen. Once Call of Duty is owned by Microsoft or ABK, and then the Call of Duty IP will be owned by Microsoft, they're going to release a game called Call of Duty. Period. That's it. It's just going to be called Call of Duty, not Call of Duty Ghost 2, none of this, no Black Ops 5. It's just going to be called Call of Duty. And what it is going to have one campaign to it. It is going to be a hub world that is going to build for years and years, like World of Warcraft, like Destiny, like any of those other games. And what they're going to do is that every single year, they're going to add and expand that single Call of Duty and create this hub world that you can go to different sections of it, and it's all going to be different eras of conflict. World War II, World War I, Vietnam. You can walk over here and go to the Korean War. You can go over here and do the Pacific War, modern war over here, and this, that, and the other thing. And then you can go to the Afghan War, the Iraq War, whatever, right? And those will all be different sections, just like Destiny does. So you have all these players running around this big open world hub, and then you can actually go to all these different sections. You'll be able to play all these different campaigns, sometimes even co-op, just like some of the Call of Duty campaigns were. And that's what they're going to do moving forward. And it's going to be that's going to be the big project. And it's just going to be called Call of Duty, period. No more numbers, no more names. That's my theory. Anyways, let me get back to my point. The thing is, keeping it multi-platform only makes sense, again, for many reasons. You're not taking it away from anybody. You're not killing the player base. However, Sony does have some fears which are warranted. And the warranted fears are, would you rather pay $100+ for Call of Duty on PlayStation, or would you rather just pay for Game Pass that most people, even the haters, are currently paying right now? Because a lot of them secretly are on there. And let me tell you something. You know those guys that have those shows? A lot of anti-Xbox stuff. Guess what? Ba-dink! So-and-so is online. But dink, so and so is online. You know why I know? Because they're friends of mine. So I know that like a lot of, you know what I mean? They're on there playing Xbox. They're on there. They got Game Pass, all that kind of stuff. So what would you rather do? Would you rather pay $105? I mean, at least up in Canada for Call of Duty, or would you rather just keep paying the subscription you were already paying for to begin with? Right now, the thing is, there is something to be said about where your friends are at. I get that. I understand that. But guess what? If all your friends start moving over, just like they did in the PS4 era, all right, from the 360 and everybody went to PS4, what the hell's the difference? Yep. Okay, that point is moot now. Okay, that point is moot because then when it comes to the PS6 and nobody's over there, everybody moved over to Xbox. Well, then that's where you follow your friends, right? So that I could see it at a warranted situation. The marketing, that's also a thing. That's a big thing. Okay, that marketing, you couple that with branding of the product, and basically it's going to seem like it's an Xbox, IP moving forward, and it's not for us. It's not for you, not for Skullzi, not for Boomstick, not for anybody, for Asante, Crispy Bob, nobody in the chat. They're not looking at those people. They're looking at my children.
Yep.
That's who they want. They don't give a shit, care about us. They care about my kids because my kids are going to be alive a lot longer than I am. You know what I mean? So they're going to be spending more money. Those kids got more ahead of us than, you know what I mean? Than behind them, right? So they're like, well, that's what we're looking for. That's what when they're marketing Marvel movies, they're not marketing Marvel movies to 55-year-old guys. They're marketing it for 8-year-olds because those 8-year-olds in 25 years from now are going to be taking their kids to Marvel movies. Whatever. You get what I'm saying. Same thing with the video games. So the thing is, the marketing is going to be synonymous with Xbox. And that's another thing moving forward. That's going to change the trajectory. Just like how the 360 era was Call of Duty. Call of Duty was 360. All the what the hell they called the esports and all that stuff. It was all Xbox. It was all 360. No one was playing a PS3 for those reasons, right? But then all of a sudden, what ended up happening? The PlayStation 4 ended up becoming the thing. All the esports, they were all playing on PlayStations. You turn on any movie that has a console in it, it's a PlayStation sitting there. They're playing Call of Duty. They weren't playing Xbox One in any Hollywood movie. They would always, or even TV show. You know what I mean? That's what I'm getting at. The point is, it's all about that marketing and all about that name recognition, and it's all about where it's going to go, the branding moving forward. And so they don't care that it's going to be on the Switch. They don't care that it's going to PC or to PlayStation. They know that they've got the branding rights and the name is going to be synonymous with the Xbox ecosystem. It doesn't matter where you sell it. So the thing is, you've done everything correct. You are not cutting out a player base. You are not jading a player base. Okay? You've been inclusive with all of the player bases, but the marketing will speak for itself. The people will slowly but surely start coming over. So in a way, it is sort of aggressive, but it's passive aggressive in a way that they're still going to get a lot of those PlayStation players are going to be coming over to Xbox, but the public perception is that it's not going to be as bad. They're trying to avoid, like Phil was kind of alluding to there, they don't want that bad image that they had in the 90s. You guys remember the Microsoft image of the 90s? They were the devil incarnate because they owned everything. Remember, they used to take what's his name to court all the time because of the Windows was in everything. I can't believe I can't remember his bloody name for Christ's sake. But anyways, you know what I'm saying? Like Microsoft was the devil in the 90s. So that's what they're trying to avoid now because Call of Duty is the biggest IP in the world. Period. And if you don't believe me, go look at the numbers from this weekend. They broke every single world record to date with this new game. So you know what I'm saying? They don't want to look like the bad guys. So they've done everything right. And you have the choice as a consumer, instead of bitching and crying and moaning, you as a consumer have a choice of playing it wherever the hell you want and wherever your friends want to play. It's up to you. So Microsoft is not the bad guy in that respect. They're doing everything proper. But if you want the better deal, go to Xbox. That's where you're going to find it.
Yeah. You're going to get your money's worth. Not only are you going to get Call of Duty each year, you're probably going to get all the maps and everything packaged in there with you, as well as potentially 499 other games, some of which are going to be some of the biggest in gaming when you look at next year. I know there's been some questions as to how well does Call of Duty sell on PlayStation. Well, I have that in front of me. I pulled a story that was released by Tweaktown 5 days ago, folks, And this is a quote directly from Sony. They have proclaimed that on the back of every retailed box copy of Modern Warfare 2, it is the best-selling game, and they put that on their boxes. But what's interesting is Sony also confirmed, ladies and gentlemen, that Modern Warfare 2 is the best-selling and pre-ordered game and day one purchase in PlayStation history when it comes to Modern Warfare.
Boom, they're also laying it on thick for the CMA. Let's also face it. They use that as a tool to lay it on real thick so the CMA could see that loud and clear, right? So they weaponized that.
Yeah.
Which is dirty, but hey, you do what you got to do, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's their house, right?
Yeah, at the end of the day, the deal is going to go through because it's not illegal. They're not going to take the game away from PlayStation owners, even if it goes into Xbox Game Pass. There's still an option to buy on other consoles as well as on your own Xbox. If you want to spend $70 on Xbox, you can go. There are a lot of people that still buy the games that don't support Xbox Game Pass. As a matter of fact, Xbox Game Pass for the second year in a row did not hit their own marks. Even though they had gains, their internal numbers were not hit. That's the second year in a row. It is out there for everyone to see. But Crispy Bomb, let's get your opinion on this. Phil's out there, and listen, let's not play coy here. He's out there talking to different people in the industry because he wants the CMA to know that Call of Duty is going to remain multi-plat the same way it has been done with Minecraft. What are your thoughts on this? Is this a big deal? I mean, because there are a lot of people that are upset with Phil Spencer for confirming this. I say the more players, the better. I think that one of the things that Microsoft is not going to allow for, and Sony's going to have to bend the knee on this, is not charge them a cross-play tax, which is something we know that they do, not only to smaller developers, but as well as big publishers. What are your thoughts on this confirmation from Phil?
I mean, we've all kind of, they kind of like were coy about it a little, like, we were all saying that that's what they're saying, but they weren't really saying it, and people were arguing, and people are still arguing about this, by the way. People still somehow think that PlayStation is going to lose Call of Duty. Call of Duty is too big. Okay. Minecraft would not be what it is if they took it off all the other platforms. What it is today is because they kept the train rolling and they supported the ecosystem that Minecraft is now. And I think, Mag, you might be onto something with your little hub thought process. I wouldn't put it past them to do something like that. Not necessarily to say that, there wouldn't be, something else released, but maybe, almost like they treat Call of Duty Mobile right now, you know what I mean? Or something like that, where there's an ever living system, like something, like Warzone could be eventually become what you're talking about. I'm saying, in a way, and you have the different maps or different, areas in war or eras and stuff like that. So, I look at it and I say there's a lot of possibility. It's just whether the deal goes through or not, because, you could love Call of Duty, but there's going to be major issues if this deal doesn't go through. And you could single-handedly might be looking at PlayStation in 2 to 3 years and say, you killed Call of Duty. You killed them by arguing about this. Because PlayStation, all the marketing dollars in the world, that ain't going to save what they're trying to do. They spend a lot of money on this game. Luckily, it sells well. And that's where Phil says, we're not going to take it from nowhere. If anything, we're going to throw it on Switch next.
Yep.
If anything, we're going to, maybe they start, getting into, high quality of VR experience or something like that. You just never know with them. And, really Microsoft's looking at it and said, we're going to have certain games that are exclusive. We're going to have certain games that we don't feel, it would be right, to take away. And, you might see that with Elder Scrolls. You might see this with a few other, the next Fallout. You never know. It could come out on PlayStation. You know what I mean? Now, they've been a little more held back on Bethesda because, they don't sell quite as much as a multiplayer first-person shooter like Call of Duty.
Right.
But at the same time, you see these people like, dude, I know like 4 or 5 people that are literally playing just Call of Duty Mobile now. Like they enjoy that as much, if not more, than the actual console experience. And this is why Microsoft wants ABK for these things that they're not good at. They have admitted this. Now, one final thought. Them going and touting all these sales numbers on PlayStation, it can go one of two ways. It could say, oh, we can't survive. Or it also could say, well, you guys are way too dominant on this. So, those regulators could be like, whoa, this is kind of like a big disparity here. If we come out with the sales for all these other, areas of where the game's at, where do they compare to Sony? And that's the thing that they might come and bite them. Also, if I'm not the only one, they are marketing Call of Duty more than God of War.
They sure are. Yeah.
And that is your first party, your AAA banger masterpiece. That is your console seller. And you are marketing a third party game more. And you are definitely wholeheartedly marketing as if it's only on PlayStation. It literally, if you didn't know, if you were just a regular Joe consumer, you would think that's only on PlayStation. So I think they're being very aggressive with it. I don't know. It could, if the guys kind of look through the tinted glass that they're showing you right now and say, whoa, wait a second, there's something up here. So, that 3-year deal, like I wouldn't even do that anymore. I think they've burned that bridge. That 3-year deal obviously is for marketing. I don't care what anybody says. And it is a big marketing thing. But when you own the company, eventually you own them. You get their marketing. It just makes sense.
It does make sense. And finally, KSI, let's get your opinion on this. Phil Spencer, bombshell or not, keeping Call of Duty on PlayStation, potentially even bringing it to the Switch, does I mean, this is one of those situations where it's doing. I think it's going to do much more than it is going to lessen the chance of the deal going through, simply because they are making these bold promises. I say, again, I'm like you. I don't care because we're getting it on Game Pass day and date. We don't have to spend the $70. But if you're on PlayStation and that's where your friends are, you spend the $70. Good for you. What are your thoughts on Phil's talking points during this interview?
First and foremost, I think Phil should start talking to people who, people in the community. We should see more of Phil, all this two-brain stuff, I'm like, what are you talking to her for? I'm a little jealous. What's going on now? Anyway, about the point about him being out here and talking pretty profusely, like all over the place, and to anybody who will listen, I think, believe it or not, I think, as to the point that has already been made on the panel, I think Mag made that point that this is all very much CMA related as well.
Oh, yes.
And it looks like they're tired of PlayStation basically carrying out the narrative, like skewing the public left and right. I said that when people were speculating on why PlayStation didn't have a show. The CMA knows all the details that you don't know. They have access to all that stuff because they have to provide it when PlayStation asks for it. When they ask for it, Sony has to provide it. Microsoft has to provide it. So a lot of the dirty stuff that we don't know, they already know. But the way they're acting is helpful for you because the CMA is also going to ask you, hey, what do you think of this? Do you think they should go or should they not go? That's why they're all very much playing this strategic game. That's why you see them all go to all these various shows and all these various interviews and basically regurgitate the exact same thing over and over and over. They'll say the same thing, but in a different way. There's nothing new this man has said. He's alluded to it, but there's nothing new he said that's more definitive than, yup, it's staying multi-plat. Like, move on, right? We'll see if that moves the needle any. Even though he keeps they're on this offensive about, hey, nothing to see here, it's coming multi-plat. Jim Ryan seems to still seems to think it's inadequate. So maybe there's some devils in the details that we're not being privy to that he's still unhappy with, right? But no, as far as what he is doing, what Phil is doing, I think it's par for the course. He's trying to, put his face out there, trying to basically be the Microsoft that the PR machine. This is what we're doing with it. Mea culpa. Watch us fall on our face a few times. See, we're not a monopoly. We're youngin. Don't pay attention to the fact that we're trying to buy King, which like makes, I think, what is it, $6 million a day?
It's so
King
ridiculous. It's so
know?
ridiculous that it doesn't even make any sense.
Pay no mind to the fact that we're literally over here about to buy King. Just keep fighting with us about Call of Duty. Ultimately, we'll put it everywhere, which is where what we were probably going to do in the first place. But all the while, we've successfully gotten that robo-dope out of you. You didn't ask us about the $6 million a day purchase that we're making over here in the corner. I think it's all very, very strategic. I also think that very soon they're gonna have to start turning the page, because they can't keep regurgitating this stuff over and over and over.
Are you talking about
at some
Sony?
point? No, I'm talking about just Microsoft, Sony. At some point, the work of balls and strikes needs to get done. The work of the CMA needs to get done. We have to start seeing, and these dates are out there, right? But we can't have Phil coming out and like in Swahili saying the same stuff he's been saying all this time. Same stuff he said on Twitter, saying it again. You know what I'm saying? I think at some point, not that it'll get old, but it may work against their case. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it may work against them.
Yeah, that does make sense. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you, me, and everyone on the panel, all the 500 plus people we had here tonight, we just want the deal to get done, so Microsoft could just get this put to bed, get something else to talk about. I mean, again, I never get bored, because I find this whole deal fascinating. I find it even more incredibly fascinating that the way that the phase one of the CMA has been out there acting seems juvenile at best. I mean, they put out a tweet the other day, and I actually wrote to them. I don't have it in front of me. I basically said that I'm embarrassed for them, and that's the truth. I honestly cannot wait for the panel of 5 people that are going to potentially see all of Sony's dirty laundry, because that's what they're going to do. That's the investigative part of a deal this big. Phil Spencer has come out and said that he understands the scrutiny and he welcomes it. And that's he $70 billion deal has never been done before. But at the end of the day, folks, that is going to do it for your Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends. Hopefully you had enjoyed one or all 3 topics. I want to thank all of the super chats that have come in. Definitely appreciate the channel support, not only through super chats, but of course channel members. I definitely appreciate any and all people that want to join and support the channel and allow Mrs. Boomstick and I to do these big giveaways. We do have one coming up on Friday morning. The guest list so far is we're going to have King David. We're going to have Joe, Mr. Babbitt. Slow-Mo is stopping by. And Miles Dompierre and Randall Thor might be able to swing by just to hang out for a little bit. Jez Corden had confirmed, but unfortunately there's a lot going on Windows Central. So he is going to come back at a future date to hang out for the entire show. I'm still working on trying to get a guest or 3 more. But yes, the reason why we're having all these guests is because it is the 1000th episode that my wife and I will have produced on Double Barrel Gaming. And tomorrow makes officially 5 years that we're on the platform. And like I said in the opening, so far we are just about to close in on 3.6 million views. And that's pretty good considering the time frame that we've been in this platform. And of course, I want to thank everyone in the chat that has allowed for that to happen. Shout out to Elemental PO, good friend of the program, and one of the winners of the Halloween giveaway that we had. Shout out to you. Thanks for rolling through. But let's get to the outros. Skullzi TV, please sell your brand, brother. Tell everyone where they can check out and subscribe to your incredible channel dedicated to everything gaming, but specifically Bethesda and now Starfield. And where can people reach out to you on social media to strike up a conversation?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you again for inviting me on here. It's always a great time. Always look forward to your shows. For those of you who are interested in Bethesda games or Bethesda style games, you can check me out on YouTube at youtube.com/Skullzi. Over on Twitter, I'm really active there. It's Skullzi TV. And if you like open world RPGs, I'm also a developer on a game called The Wayward Realms, which we're trying to push forward how the open world RPG is seen and played. So it's going to be pretty interesting. Check us out there as well. And yep, thank you again. It's been a great time. Lots of cool topics tonight.
Thank you so much for being here, brother. We'll be in touch for sure. But Crispy Bomb, sell your brand, brother. Where are you going to be tomorrow night? And more importantly, where can people reach out to you on social media?
Gentlemen, always a pleasure. Shout out to the chat. At Crispy Bomb on Twitter, CrispyBomb28 on Xbox Live. You can find me on the next podcast tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Sometimes Breakfast with Boom. Unfortunately, I'm going to miss the 1,000th Boom. I'm sorry.
That's all right, brother.
Got to get those breaks done. So it was supposed to be last Friday, and they're like, oh, we had a bunch of call-outs. So, yeah, we had to go to the following Friday. And then we got Retro Renegade, 7 p.m. Tuesday night. And, of course, we'll see you back here next Wednesday.
Yes, brother. Thank you so much. Definitely appreciate that. And last and no way least, Kay Asante, sell your brand, brother. You're going to have an incredible show on the Gaming Circle podcast this Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You're on the hunt to 1K. Hopefully, you will click this show after it goes video on demand and do 2 clicks. Click on Kay Asante's name and then click the subscribe button. Let's help them get to 1K. Sell your brand, brother. And where can people reach out to you on social media?
Oh, well, thank you, Boom. I always appreciate being on this show with you guys and the wonderful panel and the great guests. Skullzi, appreciate you being here. A lot of good insights, good information. Maybe in the background, we'll talk about Starfield and their potential MMO and whatnot. We'll save that one for another time. But yes,
sure.
TKO Asante, Xbox, PlayStation, all the places you want to find me. I am one of the hosts of the Gaming Circle podcast. We've been chugging along pretty steadily, heading towards that 1,000 subscribers. We are so close, you can taste it. Please help us get there. We're usually being slanderous on Saturday mornings. This weekend, it's going to be absolutely ridiculous because Mr. Everborn Saga thought that the PlayStation VR 2 is going to be $350. I'm going to make him feel it on this show. It's going to be hilarious. So yes, we're going to get into it on that show. We're going to have a lot of tech drops and whatnot. We'll talk a bit more detail about what's going on, but I appreciate everybody coming to check us out and all that support that we continue to get from this community. So thank you guys so much. But we will see you guys next Wednesday.
Yes, they definitely will. But once again, thank you for the over 500 people that tuned in for tonight's primetime gaming. Obviously, I'm playing the heck out of Gotham Knights. It's so good, even though I've been labeled as a crazy person because I think it's one of the best games of the year, even at 30 frames per second. But that's just me, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, thank you so much again for being here. I'm going to close out today's show with something, folks, that's important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.